dried off and brushed their hair after the wind and rain. I appreciate it. Josh Ward, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Paige Dower back with us. Paige, thank you. Tyler Ivins right there, and Ryan Callahan. Thanks to both of you guys, and we've still got Bob Hodge waiting in the wings. Tennessee ran into a better team last weekend in Indianapolis, ousted by Houston in what was a poor performance for Volunteers, especially in the first half. Though after what you saw from Houston last night, knocking Duke out of that thing and the comeback they put on, there's no shame in losing to Houston, obviously. That's a team that I believe I underestimated this time last Sunday. We'll get into the team and Rick Barnes a little bit later, his ceiling. But first, it's time to rebuild the roster. Let's talk about that, and let's take a look at the roster. As it stands today, J.P. Estrella, who missed most of last season, will be back as a power forward. Felix Okpara will be returning as your starting center. Cade Phillips will be back. Bishop Boswell will probably step into a bigger role next year. You have 3 incoming freshmen, a couple of 4-stars and a 3-star. And then the big get, Josh Ward, we'll start with you. The big get, Ja'Kobi Gillespie. He'll be the point guard coming in. He led Maryland to a Sweet 16 berth this year. Thoughts on the Vols getting Gillespie? Thoughts on what they still need to do from here?
It's terrific news to get Ja'Kobi Gillespie. How much time have we spent the last few months talking about, oh my goodness, Tennessee has to replace Zakai Ziegler. Rick Barnes has reminded us they're going to have to replace Zakai Ziegler. So they did that by going out and getting the top priority for them, I believe, and Gillespie, a guy that's played at a high level in the Big Ten, went to the Sweet 16, as you mentioned, and then just checks boxes. When you think of what Zakai Ziegler does, running the offense, helping lead the defense, because that is a huge part of that position, what you can do with perimeter defense. Gillespie is well known for how tough he is on the defensive side. He can shoot from the outside. He really developed his shot when he went to Belmont, then to Maryland, and became a high-level outside shooter, which Tennessee needs, and that can be part of what we get to next. But then the experience as well. If you have to replace what Zakai Ziegler brought from a leadership standpoint, well, a guy that's played a lot of basketball against really good competition and will probably fit in and understands East Tennessee and what Tennessee basketball is all about coming from Greenville. He just, I think, checks every box in terms of what Tennessee needed at point guard.
Paige?
And I think kind of building off of that too, what you look to again in the game against Houston is they were outsized. And I think you could see that in the 30 points and the paint that Houston got. So I think what they're getting from the new guys, hopefully the rest of the way in the transfer portal, they get good size, maybe even out of their guards. I mean, they were shooting threes over the hand of Felix Okpara a couple of times. So I think if they can complement the skills that they've got from maybe their small forwards or shooting guards with size, I think that will help them maybe have those longer runs in the NCAA tournament. But I think size has to be a top priority for this team.
They missed out on another guard. They wanted Isaac McNeely, who was at Virginia, and he wound up committing to Louisville. We'll see if Tennessee scrounges up NIL dollars and turns him around. You never know when any of this is done in this day and age. But they lose out on McNeely. In terms of needs, what are you looking at? You saw what's left on that roster. You got a lot of them. You got a lot of needs, and it looks like you're going to have a lot of young depth unless you go grab several guys out of the portal for this.
I had concern about McNeely the second I heard that Pat Kelsey was in the mix because of the way they played at Virginia and compared to how Kelsey likes to play open floor at Louisville. The second I heard that McNeely was going to, as of right now, as you already mentioned, head of the Cardinals program, I thought getting Gillespie was an absolute must-have moment. Like, everybody stop what you're doing. We're getting on a plane. We're going to go get Gillespie. We're going to make sure we seal the deal, and they did just that. To what Josh already, I'll cherry pick off that. The physicality, toughness. A lot of people are just asking, well, is he the new Zakai Ziegler? What exactly can we piece away from Zakai's game and take? Better three-point shooter. I think perhaps defensively Zakai gets the edge, but let's not get this mistaken. This guy is still very, very tough in a Big Ten where they like to be met at the timeline going, beat me to the rim. This is a solid get to get Gillespie back here to the state of Tennessee from his Belmont days.
Yeah, really like that pickup. Now you need a backcourt partner for him.
Bingo.
That's the big thing. You got to have another, whether it's someone more like a Dalton Connect, more like a Chaz Lanier. You need somebody in that vein to be the go-to scorer for this team. And there will be other guards in the portal, even if they can't get back in on McNeely or anything like that. I mean, there are plenty of scorers out there. Just a matter of can you get one of the top ones, ideally, that would make this another potentially Elite Eight team again next year. You've got to have a go-to scorer because this team has some nice pieces, but just not that go-to perimeter shooter that's going to carry a lot of the load in the scoring. And also, you need a small forward to go with it. You need a couple wings, probably, someone that can really shoot and give this team some offensive upside.
Yeah, I mean, you're counting on 3 freshmen stepping in and playing some amount of role next year. I don't want to discount Rick Barnes. I trust him to rebuild the roster, but this is a little different from last year's rebuild. This is because, yes, you bring Okpara back, but this past year, you had Meshack and Ziegler, who had been in the program for years, guys who knew the defense in and out, knew the culture, knew what Rick Barnes wanted. They were able to pass that on to the other newcomers who walked in. You don't have that, so this is a little bit different rebuild than what we saw last year.
On our radio show Monday, you referred to Sakai Ziegler and Jemai Meshack as the spine of the University of Tennessee. Maybe rearranging a little bit of the furniture pieces. This is drywall, this is roof. This will be the most difficult job, in my opinion, year 11 for Rick Barnes on having to build a roster to advance forward next year.
And the thing is, part of it, I look at it, it's like, how are all these guys going to gel? But that's just an old way of thinking, because you look at the NCAA tournament this year, and you got teams in the finals, teams in the Final Four, teams in the Elite Eight, who were thrown together last offseason. So the idea that you can't just, that you need that culture.
It's a question that pretty much everybody has to ask during the offseason. How will they all come together?
Right.
Yeah, and the culture thing has been such a big part for Rick Barnes. I may overstate it because we know how important it is for him. But is he going to be just like anybody else and not need the culture? Hey, I'll instill the culture when they get here, and I stomp on their necks and say we're going to practice like this. I'll get their culture where I need it to be. I just think it would help if you had a couple of 4-year veterans to help spread the word.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily about like implementing the culture. I think it's maybe more about chemistry on the court, because you look to the postseason, even if you want to start with the conference tournament, and we're like, oh, Chaz Lanier, he's unlocked a new level, a different gear, and he really continued to highlight how, like, well, we've only been together for less than a year, and I think we're just now kind of building that chemistry. We understand the screens that we want to set, and then you see that success. You even really saw it with Jordan Gainey coming off the bench in the postseason, how much he was able to turn it up a notch. So I think having all those new guys in goes more to production on the court, not so much culture, because I think they implement that right away very easy.
There still needs to be additions, as we've touched on, but I do not want to make sure, I want to make sure I'm abundantly clear. Ja'Kobi Gillespie would have taken over this Maryland team had he not had a lottery pick with Derek Queen that he was having to share. All the attention to Maryland was because it was to Derek Queen, because of how talented he was. He hit the game-winning shot to send him to the Sweet 16. Ja'Kobi Gillespie's going to come in here. He's going to step on necks. He's going to kind of enjoy the light being, because I believe he's going to show up and be an immediate impact for Rick Barnes' program. It's just how much is Rick going to give him the opportunity to be able to shine and say, I know I've only been here 1 year. I want to be able to be the face of this program. You're going to be very impressed with what he brings to Knoxville.
Well, he let him do that the last 2 times with DK and Chaz, so I think he'll welcome that.
The key to me is finding some, as Paige said, some length, but some offensive upside, some real offensive potential. Rick Barnes seems to have gotten the idea the last couple of years. He's still going to play good defense, but he's going to find guys who can shoot. The last couple of years have told us that, but he's got to continue doing that. You got to find guys that can knock down shots, because that's what has allowed this team to become an Elite 18 in the last 2 yeast. Without that, if they take a step back offensively, you're going to see some of that more grinded out type that fans love to watch.
Well, and he said, and that I love to watch, he said last offseason this is going to be a better shooting team. It was, but only incrementally. I mean, they've gone up at 1 percentage point in their field goal percentage each of the last 2 years.
And look at why it was that way.
Need to take a jump.
You had Chaz Lanier and Jordan Gainey that you got out of the transfer portal. You've got to get a couple shooters, I think, to take this team to a similar level.
I think if Igor performed maybe the way he did earlier in the season, they certainly would have gone up a couple more notches.
Yeah, his drop-off is one of the stories of the season, because I think they counted on more, and I don't know where it went.
Spin that with Darlin Stone to bar. I know, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Though Tennessee's playing in the Final Four. You just had some aggression.
Yeah.
All right, very good. When we come back, you can't break through to the Final Four, period. That's just that. You can't do it. I don't know why they can't do it. We'll discuss why they can't do it. Is it Rick Barnes? Is it the team pressing? Is it the team pressing for Rick Barnes? Why can't Tennessee get through the Elite Eight to the Final Four? That's next on the Sports Source.